Legendary Galleria Mall. Why is Darcy lives in LA? Why is the Galleria Mall legendary? Why do they say that it's legendary?
I don't know.
This movie was made in the heyday of the go-go, let's make a movie 80s, fueled by the VHS revolution. When you could pretty much make up a movie plot on Monday, get it funded on Tuesday, cast it on Wednesday, start shooting it on Thursday. And the script was written in about 4 weeks. And because it was two New York City guys working together, this was their system. Wynorski tells this story. Wynorski would say, why don't we take your ideas, Steve, which I hate, and combine it with my idea, which you hate. And so that's the way they pieced together the movie. They originally planned to shoot it at the famous Beverly Center Mall in LA, which is the classy mall. But they wanted too much money. They wanted things like insurance. Can you believe that? Yeah. So they moved the killer robots to Sherman Oaks, and the rest is history. And it was released under the title Killbots. And it ran 90 minutes, and it did not do well during a very limited test run. So Roger Corman said, okay, we're going to take this back into the editing room. We're going to make it much shorter, and we're going to make it much better. And while they were doing that, somebody came into the editing room to change the light bulbs. And he said, why don't you just call it Chopping Mall? And nobody even remembers who said that. It was some random dude at New Horizons. And Roger liked the name, and so the new ad campaign was born, and history was made. Even though the title makes no sense, there is no chopping anywhere in the movie. Chopping implies knife wounds or axe wounds. What we have here is laser zappers, you know? But it became one of the most beloved films in the sub-genre called mall horror, which would include Dawn of the Dead, Phantom of the Mall, also shot in Galleria, you know, the legendary Galleria Shopping Center, The Initiation, and what else? Night of the Comet. That shopping mall scene is shot there. So, if you include supermarkets, Intruder, The Mist. You know, one thing we should do here, Ben, is one night we should have mall horror night. Although, do you have an abandoned mall somewhere in Rochester? We should do mall horror night in an abandoned mall. Okay, there are lots of those. Do you have a favorite mall movie, Darcy? Do you have a favorite mall movie?
It's probably this one.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay, more than Phantom of the Mall?
Yes.
So anyway, Roger did end up cutting out 15 minutes of the original print, which horrified Jim Wynorski at the time, but the result, 77 minutes, turned out to be the perfect length. And why can't they do that anymore, by the way? Why are there no 77-minute movies? Why does every horror movie have to be 110 minutes, you know? Not that this is even a classic horror movie. It's more like an action thriller that has a lot of horror elements. And why do special effects have to cost umpteen jillion dollars? The real stars of this movie are the robots, and Robert Short made those robots out of wheelchair frames and pieces of conveyor belt, and they look amazing. And they operated on 12-volt car batteries, electric wheelchair motors, fiberglass over an aluminum shell. The only thing was they had to overcrank the film speed to make them look fast, because they could only travel about 8 miles an hour. And the arms and the hands on the robots, those were grabber claw toys from Japan, and the bodies were supported by roller skate wheels. So, all right, I'm going to talk about the cast. One legend after another in the cast. There's a, I'm not going to do any spoilers, but there was a blow dart to the neck scene in this. How many people have seen this? I'm going to try to do it without spoilers. The character who takes the blow dart to the neck is legendary character actor Garrett Graham. Garrett came in and did that little part for $600. This was Jim Wynorski's second film, and he was starstruck by all these B-movie actors that he got to work with, and he was especially fond of Garrett Graham because of his sleazy salesman role in Used Cars, if anybody has seen that. But this audience would actually probably best remember him as Bud the Chud.
Yeah. Beef.
And Chud 2.
Beef,
You
no.
Chud 2 fans are sick, by the way. What's your opinion of Chud 2?
Oh, I love Chud too.
Oh, God.
We've been trying to show it.
Anyway, again, also Garrett Graham was also in Phantom of the Paradise. He was the rock star in it.
Beef, yo.
He was the jerk foster dad in Child's Play 2.
Yeah.
Anyway, hundreds of roles for Garrett Graham. Now, this movie has a bundle of insider references. In the first scene, we have Paul Bartel and Mary Warnoff as the sarcastic couple, you know, basically doing the roles that they played in Eating Raoul. They were supposed to do another scene in the movie where they arrive at the mall with a horse, planning to cut it up and serve it at their diner. But Roger Corman wouldn't pay for a horse, so that scene got cut. You also might recognize Mel Wells, who was in Attack of the Crab Monsters and Little Shop of Horrors. And if you're paying really close, he's the cook in the diner. Mel Wells is the cook in the diner. If you're paying really close attention, you may notice Angus Scrimm, the tall man, in the Phantasm movies. He's asking one of the questions in that opening scene, the meeting in the mall. This is the old teenagers go into a dangerous place, get cut off from civilization, and die one by one story. Yeah. Only they're going to be what they should be, going to what should be a happy place, the mall, the happiest place of all in the 80s. And there's no Jason, Freddy, Michael Myers killer. There's just these little demonic R2-D2 things. And if the teenagers have sex, they die. These are robots that don't like teenagers having sex, you know. Although they aren't really teenagers, of course, because in the time-honored tradition of Hollywood, teens are always played by actors in their late 20s. So, you will notice that this movie has ghost breasts. Now, what are ghost breasts, you might ask? Ghost breasts are naked women, often not identified or credited at all, who just randomly walk through scenes. For example, this movie has a locker room scene, because all malls have locker rooms, right? Where the teenagers go to change clothes, right? And in this locker room, Allison and Susie, played by Kelly Maroney and Barbara Crampton, who were both 80s film queens. Kelly and Barbara are getting dressed, and these random naked girls just walk behind them. There are also bikini girls who, for no apparent reason, all get on the mall escalator at the same time. With the lead bikini girl played by the great Toni Naples, star of many Jim Wynorski films, like she starred in Deathstalker 2, Hard to Die, Transylvania Twist, Dinosaur Island, Sorceress. If I'm not mistaken, Jim was dating Toni Naples at the time. So her credit in the movie is not just bikini girl, it's lead bikini girl. What is your position on ghost breasts, Darcy? Is that an acceptable thing?
Them? I don't know.
Oh, okay, good. I know you do boobs for Brady, so you know the effective use of breast nudity to influence the audience. I hope everybody's taking notes on this, because there is going to be a test. Right. And then there's Susie Slater. Susie Slater is famous for two scenes, and both of those scenes are in this movie. I thought this movie would launch Susie Slater into drive-in superstardom. Kelly Maroney was already a drive-in superstar, but one of the best reasons to watch this movie is for the debut performance of Susie Slater's garbanzos right before they get lasered by a killer maniac robot in an exploding head scene in the Galleria Shopping Center. Now, Susie, she could have been a drive-in queen, but she had a very brief career. She got stuck in this flick just long enough to become a grease spot on the linoleum, but plenty long enough to make us remember her aardvarking scene at the Furniture King. Now, it takes about 9,000 tries with the laser guns before they explode Susie's head with pink laser bolts. Wynorski considers it the second greatest exploding head in the history of film. The first being David Cronenberg's exploding head in Scanners. You have a favorite exploding head?
Maniac.
That's actually, that's a shotgun to the head, right? And it is the special effects master's head, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, Susie Slater disappears from movie history right after this picture. All we know is she was a Kansas girl, University of Nebraska cheerleader, flight attendant, swimsuit model, 3 Playboy pictorials, did a lot of bombshell walk-on roles, and then just vanished. But If you say today to any hardcore drive-in mutant, you remember Susie Slater? And if people can't place her, all you have to say is chopping mall, exploding head. Oh yeah, that girl, so hot. Okay. If your most memorable moment is your head exploding and people still remember how hot you are hot. You know. And of course, the other big '80s star in this movie is Barbara Crampton, who was well known. She was well known to horror audiences from the Stuart Gordon films Reanimator and From Beyond. Barbara Crampton fans here? Yeah. But the lead and the role that probably the role she's best known for today, would you agree? Is this movie Kelly Maroney?
Day of the Comet, probably.
More Day of the Comet? The lead is played by Kelly Maroney. Kelly Maroney was born in Minneapolis. She started acting at the Guthrie Theater, the very prestigious Guthrie Theater there. She worked with the National Shakespeare Company Conservatory in New York. And of course, it was all that Shakespearean training that prepared her for Chopping Mall. And actually, it was a soap opera that prepared her for it. She was on this soap opera called Ryan's Hope, and she was the evil Lolita in 300 episodes where she was still underage, but she was the sex object. All right, I want to mention one more guy before we watch the greatest mall-oriented killer robot flick ever made. Many people love the soundtrack for this movie, and that's Chuck Serino. And he would compose dozens of film soundtracks, but this was his first film soundtrack, and at the time, he was working for Shadow Stevens. Shadow Stevens was a famous radio host and a UFO expert. But this was in the 80s when Shadow Stevens was mostly known for being the pitchman for Federated Department Stores. And Serino's idea for the music was, what would a robot be thinking under these circumstances? And so the music was a constant flow of robot brain instructions, which is why it sounds so intense and bombastic. He also wrote Allison's theme, watch for that. That was written for Kelly Maroney's emotional scenes. And then he uses a lot of harp and piano in that. There's a robot theme, which you hear over and over again. And it sounds to me like maybe a xylophone or a marimba or something. It eventually becomes an annoying sound, one of those sounds you associate with children's animation shows, you know. So, but it makes them, they're kind of happy killer robots, you know, because of that theme. Chuck Serino still works with Jim Wynorski today. They collaborated on the avant-garde festival film Cobra Gator. Have you seen Cobra Gator? You've not seen it. I was going to ask you which part of the creature dominates the cobra or the gator, but I guess, has anybody seen Cobra Gator? Nobody saw Cobra Gator? Are you kidding me? With a name like Cobra Gator? All right. Well, anyway, Jim Wynorski himself.
Don't worry.
We're going to watch it now for sure. Jim Wynorski himself does the voice of the Killbots, and other actors. Russell Todd plays Rick. He had become a little bit famous in the movie Where the Boys Are in 1984. He was also in He Knows You're Alone. He was in Friday the 13th Part 2. And John Terlesky is the gum chewing guy. Always doing that. Mike. He worked in several other Jim Wynorski films. Today he's mostly a director. Has a lot of solid credits as a director of TV series. Okay. Basically what we got here is 3 security guard robots that go berserk during a lightning storm and start using their lasers and throwing stars and tranquilizer guns and F-16 fighter planes to kill teenagers that they catch making the sign of the triple hump squid puppy after hours in the mall. After each body demolition they say, thank you, have a nice day. In other words, spam in an atrium, and that's the whole plot. So let's go to the drive-in totals.
Yeah.
We have, and by the way, if all those people who didn't get their stuff signed, I will be in the same place till the last person leaves, so don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to go down there during the movie if you happen to getting popcorn or something and you want to do it then. But anyway, I'll still be here at the end. So we have 10 dead bodies, 3 dead killbots, 8 breasts, 3 pints of blood, 1 exploding head, 3 twisted metal explosions, kamikaze forklift, gratuitous Paul Bartel, gratuitous Mary Warnoff, gratuitous Dick Miller, fold-out food, pastel laser bolt food, turpentine food. Driving Academy Award nominations for Jim Wynorski, the writer-director, for casting Kelly Maroney in the lead because he wanted to date her. Tony O'Dell as Nerdy Ferdy for saying, okay, let's party. Susie Slater as Leslie, the double-breasted United Way agency, for saying, when I'm happy, everybody's happy. Russell Todd as Rick for saying, if we get out of here alive, you owe me a 6-pack. Barbara Crampton as Susie the Whiner for saying, but Greg needs me, and then getting french fried on camera immediately. Carrie Emerson as Linda for saying, I'm sorry for getting hysterical. I guess I'm just not used to being chased around a mall in the middle of the night by killer robots. And selling that line. And Kelly Maroney, driving Queen of the 80s, the woman who put the K in Scream Queen, as the romantic lead, the final girl, and the badass with a road flare stuffed down her bra. I'm going to give this movie, how many stars did I give this when we were on last drive-in? Do you remember?
3?
I think I give it 3. I've watched it again.
4 stars.
I'm going to give it, what would you give it? You don't agree with 3, right?
I feel like 3 is pretty good.
You think 3 is pretty good for this? What do you think, Ben?
3.5.
3.5.
I'll take 3.5. That's not good.
We're going to raise it up to 3.25. Joe Dog says, check it out. Thanks for being here.
Just a heads up. So this is a digital presentation of the film. However, we do have 1 minute of the intro in 35mm. We're going to show that shows the opening credit sequence as Killbots. So that'll be a little fun. So we're going to show that, and then we'll jump into the film starting over. So just so you know. Thank you all so much.